Alrighty. Hello, everyone. One of my least favorite parts about going live is when they ask you to smile for a thumbnail, and I feel like, eh, I do my best smiles when I'm candid. Like some of the photos I have on my Facebook were taken when I wasn't even aware that they were being taken, so I feel like I look a lot more natural. So, let's lay out the ground rules. Hello to whoever joined. So, first off, I wanted to give my own calm and collected opinions about Byleth being revealed for DLC in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Plus, what am I doing with this channel? Because I seem to be going through a bit of a slow phase and I don't want my viewers to think anything has happened. It's just that, well, I haven't had a whole lot to talk about recently. Or if I have, I thought about it and then I said, maybe that wouldn't be the best idea for this particular audience. So, with that in mind, I might wait a little bit for someone to show up. But first off, let's kick things off with question. So, I actually used a new shampoo today, which is why my hair is looking way better than it normally does. So, well, I wouldn't say new, but within the last couple of times I was able to shower, I tried out this new shampoo, and that really helps because sometimes if I don't wash my hair, it looks like I'm losing my hair. But thankfully, with this, it gets back to its former luster. So that's nice. Also, I have this t shirt in anticipation for how excited I am about the Smash DLC. So while I'm waiting for people to show up, I should add that I might not have too long to be here, but you can always watch this video later if you want to know what it is that you missed. So first off, some games that I've been playing lately are Luigi's Mansion 3, Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair, and Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE Encore. I really loved Tokyo Mirage Sessions on the Wii U and was really disappointed that I was never able to capture footage for it. So the Switch version is giving me an opportunity to, in essence, do a re-review of the Wii U masterpiece, except this time I have more of an opportunity to talk about, like, have my opinions changed toward it since Three Houses came out, because we're looking at the quintessential Fire Emblem game here, folks. It's pretty hard to top that. Also of note is I got some new headphones for Christmas. Unfortunately, they do not have a microphone piece, but I got another set of headphones for Christmas that do. So if I ever meet someone cool enough who wants to Skype or do Google Hangouts, then I have the means of doing so. So a couple of other tidbits is I'm really hoping to rent The Witcher 3 sometime. I don't know when Gamefly is going to be willing to send it over, but I'll just keep sending my games back after I'm done with them. But my opinions on Luigi's Mansion 3, I haven't unlocked Gooigi yet, but I'm having a lot of fun. Egad keeps wondering what's taking me so long because I tend to want to suck up as much stuff from the rooms as possible. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm a dude and we dudes like destroying things. I don't know. There's a certain innate pleasure in being like, ooh, destructible environments. Let's go. Yooka-Laylee, I haven't started yet because Gamefly still hasn't sent it, but they said that it's on the way, so I'm looking forward to that. And as far as Tokyo Mirage Sessions, I am far enough where I would be spoiling the game if I said more. But I am really happy that they put in a new Three Houses-based costume. And it's nice that, for better or for worse, a lot of the quirks of the Wii U original were kept in. Unfortunately, one of those quirks that I wasn't too thrilled about was the fact that they kept in the Japanese voice acting and didn't give an option to listen to the game in English, which is a shame because I really love Matt Mercer and Crom is in the game. So why couldn't they have gotten him to come back? Oh well. A fella can dream, right? As far as Three Houses, the same day that they announced Byleth being in Smash Brothers, they also announced that the final DLC, at least that we know of, for Fire Emblem Three Houses is coming out on February 12th. It's called Cindered Shadows, which is actually the first DLC pack that has a name in Three Houses. From what I can understand, it seems like it's going to be basically a fourth house hidden underground, and you get new people to recruit, new heroes, relics, and I feel like it's more of a side story than a main objective. Of course, I'll be doing a review of it once I complete it. And just FYI, if there's anyone listening right now, I'm gonna like put pretty much all of my energy into that new DLC once it comes out because Three Houses is like one of the best games I've ever played. In fact, to be precise, it's number 3 currently on my list of favorite games. I actually have a chronological list of the top 100 games that I have reviewed, and it hasn't really changed ever since I reviewed Super Mario 64. I thought, oh, I'm going to keep updating this because I've reviewed some games since then, but I've mostly reviewed some pretty. Ooh, text message. Let's see. Oh, just my phone bill. Whatever. You could do worse. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So then we have January 28th, which is this Tuesday. I'm going to be pre-ordering the second Fighter's Pass, plus downloading Cuphead and Smash, plus downloading Byleth. Now, you know what I'm even more excited about than Byleth as a character? I'm actually, and I'm more than willing to repeat everything I said for the newcomers, I'm actually really excited for Byleth's classic mode route, the spirit battles. Yay, $30 more out of my wallet. I'm really excited for Byleth's classic mode route and the spirit board because that actually would have to be among my favorite Smash Brothers concepts ever, and that would be the concept of spirits. I really love the fact that there's so many characters throughout gaming, yet Sakurai and his team couldn't possibly include all of them. So to compensate for the people that they couldn't put in the game, they made spirit battles. And honestly, I think that's pretty wonderful. It allows for picks that you wouldn't think would even work as a fighter, like Celeste from Animal Crossing, not to be confused with Madeline Celeste. Although, I'm going to say it right now, if Cuphead and Shovel Knight can get in, I would love to see a Madeline costume in the next wave, or whatever wave comes up of Smash Brothers costumes. In fact, I'll pop that in the chat in case people come late. I feel like I'm talking to myself here. Ah, well. There are a lot of people that actually join my live streams late, which is not something that other channels are usually blessed with. So in that respect, I am really thankful for all of you. So, I also wanted to talk a little bit about kappa, or more so the lack of them. You see, my channel was never intended for people that weren't allowed to legally watch videos on YouTube. I've always said it as primarily high school and up. And going forward, I'm not really sure how well I'm advertising to the high school audience. So depending on the feedback I get, I may change my content range to like 18 and up. I'm not 100% set on that, but I definitely have never. Well, okay, there's one video I did that I did intend for kids, but it was like 30 specific people that I was teaching. And it was because I was doing a catechism lesson, and all of the people I was teaching were middle schoolers. And I figured middle schoolers pay more attention if you're showing them a video on YouTube than if you write stuff on the board. So I made it for them. Then after Kappa came around, I took it down because I figured the class is over. They don't need to know that. If they want to know more about Catholicism, they can always ask me. Okay, Catholicism update. I have not given up on my faith in the slightest. I've actually been doing a lot of thinking about trusting in God and allowing Him to seize control of your destiny instead of trying to overplan and overthink the future by overloading Him with my personal wants when I'm mortal, He's immortal, so why am I trusting myself over Him? However, it's hard to constantly keep an entire channel running off of just Catholic stuff because eventually you're bound to run out of topics, or I'm bound to run into a topic that I don't know of a sufficient way of explaining it in a way that's going to satisfy people looking for answers. So, for example, why should you convert to Catholicism when you could be a Baptist or a Lutheran? I feel like I know the answer to that, but I wouldn't know how to present it in a way that the YouTube audiences would be familiar with. Now, I could easily say, well, it's got the Eucharist, and Eucharist have Eucharistic miracles, and we have the Magisterium, and we have lots and lots of definitive answers as opposed to, oh, just read the Bible and hope the Holy Spirit tells you. Well, the devil can also speak through scripture, as you've seen in the Gospel of Matthew. So I I would like to talk about that, but I'm not sure if I know how to talk. But once I figure it out, I will. Really, this channel relies a lot on requests because I'm just one guy with one brain. I can't possibly speak for every single person on YouTube. Not only that, but I've checked my analytics to see like what is the most dominant audience that's viewing my content. And it seems like the majority of the people that view what I post actually aren't subscribed. Now, to me, subscribing doesn't really make a difference or not because what matters is if you like or dislike my stuff, but at least you've watched it. If you're going to subscribe just to make me feel better, that's actually going to make me feel worse because it's like, well, if you really want to make me feel better, watch my stuff and give an honest opinion about it. If you hate it, say that you hate it. If you love it, say that you loved it. If you thought it was lukewarm, say it. But don't just sit there and say, oh, that Paul dude, he's terrible, but without letting me know. Because then I'm going to keep making worse content, and the rest of the people viewing it are going to be more miserable, and I won't know that they're miserable because no one's been speaking up. So, in other words, if you think I don't want to say something because it might make Paul feel like all of his hard work was for nothing, if anything, it'll make my hard work worth it because then I'll know how to work harder to make better content. Hello to the second person that joined. Man, for me, being such a small YouTuber by comparison to everyone else, it's really, really refreshing even to just see two people in the chat because you guys probably know that I'm more on the introverted spectrum. Admittedly, a more outgoing introvert than most, but still a like smaller crowds are better type. So if I had, say, 18 people watching this, I feel like I'd probably be a bit overwhelmed. Whereas if I have 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 5 or 6 is like the limit for these live streams. I feel like that's the optimal number. By the way, if you're still watching this, feel free to interrupt me. Since I'm the only one talking and I don't know of any way to actually hear the voices of people in the chat, sometimes I speak to fill in the blanks while people type. So I'm more than willing to shut up, look at the chat because I see it pretty much instantly, and then start a whole new conversation thread based on that. Much appreciated for the like, by the way. Also, I was going to say something about my hair, but I figured I'll wait until someone I know is actually here because I feel like if you're talking to strangers, sometimes they don't get all of your unique quirks and mannerisms. And a lot of my mannerisms are very hit or miss. Like people that know me would say, "Oh, Paul, if you don't have your quirks, that basically those quirks define who you are, and I love you for it." But then people that don't know me are like, "How? What? Paul, you're a strange, crazy man, and I feel sorry for you." That was me trying to paraphrase Toy Story. It's been a while. Also, I am so thin that my neck bone keeps showing. Does anyone else have that problem? Does anyone else have the issue of getting a t-shirt that keeps sliding down even though you don't want it to? Speaking of t-shirts, my dresser is actually overflowing with t-shirts right now because I've been at a lot of Catholic conferences and I usually ask for clothes for Christmas and birthday. So I've kind of amassed a bigger collection of t-shirts than I'm willing to admit. My mom said that if I were to go like every week of the year wearing a different t-shirt, I'd probably have enough to last me the whole year. I personally don't think that math adds up. I think it's more of half a year, but I think she was also trying to make a point of like, Paul, why do you collect so many t-shirts? It's crazy. Hey, welcome. Yeah, I was specifically thinking of you when I made that title. Yes. How are you? What's been going on? And do you have any questions so far? So, uh, for those of you that have been longtime viewers of my channel, that have been around ever since 2013 and wondered, Paul, what's the history behind some of your t-shirts? Well, I'll mention a few of them. And if you like it, then I'll try wearing it more. So, the history behind this is that I got it for a Christmas present. But some of the other more obscure ones were actually exclusive t-shirts that were made for special occasions that I was lucky enough to go to. For example, my gray t-shirt that says Echo on it was based on a mission trip that I had the opportunity to chaperone in 2018. And I don't know why, but I thought that gray was like a really attractive color. And so there was also a certain level of, I don't know how to explain it without coming across weird, so I hope you'll forgive me if it does. But it was really nice to be in a space where pretty much everyone was dressed the same way as you. Because usually I'm like the only person in the room that has my own style. And everyone else is sort of doing what the culture wants, or they're trying to like overdress, like if they're Catholic or something like that. And me, excuse me. Yes. Okay, one moment. This is a very important text. I'll tell you about it in a minute, but I've got to reply to this. Oh my gosh. Okay, guys, I am so happy right now. Let me respond to your comment first. Unfortunately, I will not. I've got too much going on around here that I need to keep an eye on, and I also am currently unemployed, so I'd rather be more selective with my money. But I have been on the March for Life before, and I loved it. Albeit I nearly got lost a couple of times, and one time I had to stick my foot in the subway door to prevent my group from going without me. But if I had the money and I had the group, I would love to go, but alas, I haven't been able to go in quite a few years. Now, what was the amazing text that I got sent that is making me so excited that it may actually be my moment of the year? Well, I just got a text from my DRE, and you might actually know her. I'm hesitant to use your name because you know, I figured you changed your name for privacy purposes. Um, you probably know her from the mission trip. She asked if I wanted to help out with what's called banner making, which basically there's this conference that I chaperone every year, at least I try to. And we make a banner that symbolizes the theme of the conference, and then we place that banner in the place where we want to meet up because there's like 2,000 people at the conference and it can be easy to get lost. Whereas if we say to the teenagers, meet us by the banner, then after they're done with like mingling and all their activities, they can come to the banner and then we can say, okay, guys, Here's what is next on the agenda, so follow us this way. But what I love about me being a chaperone specifically is that a lot of people get this idea that chaperones like have to be constantly having their eyes glued to the teenagers that are in their care. And in my particular case, that has actually never been the case. It's more so of keeping track of them. Like, for example, if something changes and they have to leave the conference early, then it would be my job to follow up with that, either by informing the parents, escorting them to the area where the parents have to pick them up, making sure that I do a head check to make sure that we have everyone when we go into the program. On mission trip, I actually don't do much at all for my group of teenagers. We primarily are there to support a select group of teens and or young adults that the camp selects ahead of time. In 2018, which is the mission trip where you and I met, I actually wasn't assigned any teenagers. I was assigned what's called an associate staff member position, which means that I was working with the people that put on the trip. And most of what I did was either serving the meals or cleaning up the cafeteria. I really didn't do much outside of that. But I feel like that was so much more rewarding than being a team builder because I felt like I could serve the whole camp. And even though I wasn't going out in the community and doing work like I usually did, I was helping the teens and adults go into the community and do hard work. So I was an extension to their work. So when the residents got a chance to come to the camp and express their gratitude, even though none of them knew who I was still grateful for what they said because my work helped the teams be able to help them. So it was quite an honor. And even if that hadn't been an honor, I was just so floored away by how grateful I was that God performed a Eucharistic miracle. So, in case you missed some of the stuff I said earlier in the stream, a couple of video games I'm doing at the moment are Tokyo Mirage Sessions, Sharp FE Encores, Luigi's Mansion 3, and Ukulele in the Impossible Lair. There's also a new Wii U game that came out, surprisingly, that I'm going to try out. It's called... Oh, shoot. The name is escaping me. It's a game where you control a girl that can, like, project her spirit, and then that spirit can, like, go into other things. Kind of reminds me a lot of a game called Ghost Trick Phantom Detective that I really loved. Also, I am... What's the word? I'm actually going to be involved in a little bit more youth ministry going forward. And I was actually in the middle of doing a Kappa update, but lost my train of thought. So as far as that goes, I think I'm pretty safe from them. So far, they haven't sent me any emails. So far, it doesn't seem like my views have been drastically decreasing. And I don't see people having any problems finding my stuff. And I also seem to be having more comments than ever, which really helps, by the way. So I'm hoping going forward that they can just sort of take my word for it, that they can get the general picture of what my channel is about, and then they won't have to meticulously analyze every single video I made. Because like I said, I'm going to be transparent here. Out of all the videos I've made, and I've probably made over 500 by now, only one single video was directed at kids. But it was directed at a very, very niche audience. My specific group of middle school students that I was asked to catechize. And I thought middle schoolers have a hard time with sitting still, so I figured a YouTube video would help. But then I deleted that video after Kappa came around because I didn't want to get in trouble. So there you have it. That's the history of my channel. So, if you're still here, what are your thoughts on Byleth being in Smash Brothers, or are you not much of a Smash Brothers fan? Oh boy. I am so excited right now. I cannot believe that this is happening. I'm actually going to be able to chaperone one of my favorite conferences. I love it. So another cool thing about being a chaperone is that we take part in the conference for sure, but we're there primarily as a supporter, first and foremost, of making sure that the teens get the most out of their faith. Well, at least that's what it says on the forms of like the we need adult chaperones. So what they do is they have a checklist of things that they want us to get done. And between the adults in our parish, we'll say, like, okay, Julie, you can handle dance. Joanna, you handle night watch. I'll handle check in. And we just work with whatever teenagers happen to be in the area that we are in. So sometimes that has led to some really incredible results. Like, I believe it was either the year of or the year before I got out of depression. I was talking to two really nice teenage girls, and they said, "Oh, Paul, you have to leave. What's going on?" And I said, "Well, my assignment as a chaperone is that I have to do check in at the module." So they said, "Hey, wouldn't it be cool if you came to our module?" And I said, "Ugh, don't count on it. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be assigned one. So kind of just don't get your hopes up too high." So what I did was I went to the meeting where they would give me my instructions, and I was the first person to show up besides the person who was leading the module. So they said, "As an added bonus, we are going to allow you to pick the module you want to be in." So I said, "Oh, okay, cool." So I looked at all of the modules thinking, "Ooh. Oh, if you're wondering what a module is, it's basically a miniature classroom session." And the teenagers usually get to pick which ones they want, and it could be on various subjects that high schoolers deal with, such as how to deal with peer pressure, how to break free of an addiction, how to tell if you're truly in love, stuff that a lot of high schoolers struggle with, and these are picked by high schoolers, so they should be appropriate to the age group. At least I hope so. My brother didn't seem to like them much, but then again, he's him. So then I said, "Ooh, defending the faith. That seems totally up my alley because my dad's an apologist. I consider myself more of an evangelist personally, but still that was good enough." So then, not even checking the names, I just picked up the clipboard and I said, "Okay, cool. This is the module I want." So then after they finished the training, I went off to the door and I waited for people to show up, and lo and behold, those two girls came up and they said, "Well, this must be fate, huh?" And I said, "Never in a million years would I have guessed that we would meet up again in the same module." And then they had said during training, like, make sure that first and foremost your priority is, oh, shut me up if I'm boring you with all my chaperone stories. I can go on and on about this because I love God way more than I love video games. It's just so much easier to talk about video games. So they said, "Paul, please prioritize making sure the teenagers get seats first." So I did. I said, "Okay, let's make sure everyone gets a seat." I'll get to that in a minute. Um, and as I was checking off the names, I noticed one teenager didn't show up. So I walked in. I said, "Guys, do any of you know who this guy is?" And one of them was like, "Yeah, he had to exit out of the conference early." So then the keynote said, "Paul, there's one empty seat. Why don't you take that?" It was between those two girls. So clearly, God wanted them to change my life. And assuming that was the conference where I got out of depression, they did. So that was great. Any new Smash game since Brawl? Wow. I Man, I really hope you get to catch up. A game truck? I didn't even know that thing existed. Could you explain what a game truck is? Well, long story short, Smash for 3DS and Wii U, basically, hmm, there's not much to say about that now that Ultimate is out. I would say that they went for a more modes, less story kind of approach, whereas Ultimate went the other way around. They had World of Light, which took up about, in my opinion, 50% of the enjoyment of Ultimate. And then they went with less modes, but more Smash. So they got rid of Smash Tour, thank goodness. They got rid of Smash Run. I guess that's okay. I liked that mode, but I'm not particularly upset that it's removed. They also went for more fan service over, let's just throw in whoever we feel like. Now, Byleth getting in, that is something that a lot of the fan base seems to be upset about. My personal opinion, I loved it. I was of course, you all know that I'm a humongous, humongous fan of Fire Emblem. If I could, I'd have my special editions of Fire Emblem Fates and Fire Emblem Three Houses with me, but since we're in the process of moving, it's really hard to get all that stuff out. And I don't strictly need it right by my side. So my mom was like, put it in with all the rest of the stuff we're going to shimmy around. And when I saw the new stage and the new music selection, I was really excited. However, I couldn't stop myself from laughing a little bit because I was like, oh boy, the fans are going to hate this because they're going to say it's another Fire Emblem character. But I couldn't have predicted how they'd really hate it. Like, people were giving death threats to Sakurai, saying, like, you should be fired from this game because you put in another Fire Emblem character. Okay, I get that he's another blue-haired swordsman, but he doesn't even really use the sword for that many moves. Like, a lot of his coolest moves that I feel like I'd be using were actually the lance and the axe. And I feel like that's a good compromise for people that have played Three Houses and might have a particular preference for one house leader over the other. Well, it's true that a lot of the fan base seems to prefer Edelgard. That doesn't necessarily mean all of them do. So there might be a select portion of the Fire Emblem community that might say, well, if you had put an Edelgard, then why not Dimitri? He seems so much cooler. Personally, I think Dimitri as a character has way better development than Edelgard, but that's just me. Maybe it could be partially biased because Blue Lions was the first route that I did. But with Byleth, I feel like they gave you all three characters at the same time. So if you wanted Edelgard in, just rely on only down inputs. Because Edelgard is primarily an axe user, but she could use swords, lances, and bows if you wanted to. You could rent a. Whoa! Nice! Virtual reality? Are you serious? Because I actually have virtual reality goggles. I'm not going to get them right now because I feel like I'm at a comfortable angle. But I got the Nintendo Labo VR kit and I made the VR set myself. Nintendo just provided the instructions on how to make it. And honestly, I've heard that it's pretty lousy quality compared to most virtual reality kits. But in my personal opinion, I stopped caring after I played the tech demo on the Labo VR game. And I was like, whoa, I can get the baseball from here. Because I used to be on a softball team. So I guess the nostalgia really paid off. Also, they give you a hint as to what it felt like to play Mario's tennis on the Virtual Boy. Speaking of which, I really wished I didn't have to say this, but thankfully this is so early in the game that I wouldn't consider it a spoiler. Oh, wow. I might have to look into that if I ever get more money. That sounds really cool. Luigi's Mansion 3. Ooh, oh, oh. Let's see if my wish is granted. Oh, that's a really roundabout way of saying it, but oh boy. Oh boy. Okay, I'm chaperoning. Hmm, Okay, now that I got my excitement out of the way, you know how each Luigi's Mansion game has a retro Nintendo console that Luigi uses to contact Professor Egad? Well, they thank you very much. Thank you. You'd be surprised how many people don't like my enthusiasm. So I'm really grateful that you can put up with it at least. Uh, so the first Luigi's Mansion had the Game Boy Horror, which was based on the Game Boy Color. Then the second one had the Dual Scream, which is based on the original DS. This one has the Virtual Boo, which is a spoof on the Virtual Boy, which was Nintendo's least successful system ever, even selling less than the Wii U, with a manufacturing time of only 6 months. So if people thought the Wii U was a failure, they clearly haven't played the Virtual Boy. In fact, that was so much of a failure that I don't even think they sell Virtual Boy games at regular game stores. Like, here where I live, we have a game store called Disc Replay, which specializes in old games. They actually have a bigger selection of NES games than they do Switch games. Yet I could not find a single Virtual Boy game or system or controller. And if you go on Amazon and try to find them, the prices are like in the thousands. It's insane. Like, The Wii U had Breath of the Wild. That alone should tell you that it was way more Oh, this could be more good news. Okay, so it looks like it's gonna cost me money, but who cares? Who cares? I'm still going. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I gotta focus on this. This is cool. Okay. All right, I gotta pay $135, but who cares? This is oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, what was I saying? So Luigi contacts EGAD by looking through VR goggles, and everything's in red and black, which is hilarious. Like I said, that's not much of a spoiler because that comes within the first, I think, 2 hours of the game. I haven't even had the game for more than 2 days, so that's not much of a spoiler considering that I'd rather be playing Tokyo Mirage Sessions, but I'm trying to be fair to people that might not like that game, and they might want me to review Luigi's Mansion instead because I missed out on it in 2019. Not for lack of trying, though. Gamefly is weird, as I've said all along, and there are some games that I like better, Fire Emblem being one of them. So, catching you up with Smash Brothers, a couple of other things you should know is a couple of new characters that made it in. Let me see if I can name all of them off the top of my head. We've got the Wii Fit Trainer, probably the most Piranha Plant. A plant with teeth got in. We had Shulk from Xenoblade Chronicles, Mega Man, Pac-Man, 3 different versions of Mii's got in, and you can customize them with costumes, including Sans and Cuphead. Okay, I'm not going to try counting on my fingers here. We also had Lucina, Robin, Corrin, Chrom, and Byleth, all from the Fire Emblem series. I'm not complaining. I love Fire Emblem. We got Rosalina and Luma from Super Mario Galaxy. Bowser Jr. and the Koopalings, which are actually one character, but like each alternate costume is one of the Koopalings. That was okay. I never was terrific with them, but I was still okay with it because I loved Super Mario Sunshine, and that was where Bowser Jr. debuted. Then what else? We had King K. Rool in the latest game. That's really nice because it proved that Rare was still relevant. Banjo and Kazooie made it in. You probably knew that because you've been following my channel, but I can. You guys probably know that I'm an old man by now. I grew up with Banjo Kazooie, and they were my number one pick. In fact, they were among only 2 things I wished for in Smash Ultimate. Back when we still weren't sure whether it was a port for Smash Wii U or not, I asked 2 things, just 2. I said, please let there be a story mode, and please let Banjo and Kazooie be in the game. I got both, and the game still hasn't finished updating. So who knows? Maybe there'll be even more that's cool. And if you don't know who Banjo and Kazooie are, basically they, in a sense, perfected the 3D platform genre. In fact, it's been so good since then that the only series that's even come close to topping it is Mario. Like any other series that even tries to make a 3D platformer just ends up epically failing. That's why Donkey Kong only tried it once before going back to the Donkey Kong Country Returns format. I mean, I thought Donkey Kong 64 was okay, but I can definitely see going back to it why a lot of people would be frustrated with it. Let's see, what am I missing? Oh, Ryu and Ken from Street Fighter got in. Cloud from Final Fantasy VII, even though his music selection was trash. Bayonetta, because Nintendo bought the rights to her, so that really helped with the negotiation. Oh, that's a shame that your 3DS broke. There's some really great games on that system that not enough people talk about. So what were your thoughts on Ultimate from the little bit that you did play it? I'd really like to hear a bit more of a newbie's perspective. One thing that I think you'll really like about Ultimate, if you ever get a chance to get a Switch of your own, is that the story mode World of Light is, I mean, admittedly, people are going to have different tastes. I know my best friend played both the adventure mode in Brawl and this game, and he preferred Subspace Emissary. I personally, yeah, having Mii fighters in there. Plus, most of the DLC costumes from the previous Smash are included in Ultimate for free. So you end up paying a lot less than you would have in the original game. Plus, so far, 2 of the Mii costumes, which are only 75 cents each, have a music track with them. If you buy the Sans costume, you get a remix of Megalovania from Undertale. And if you buy the Cuphead costume, which admittedly isn't available yet, but when it is available, you get a song from Cuphead, which is, if you haven't played that game, very ragtime, I guess, old fashioned style music that sounds like it's from the 30s when actually the game came out in 2017. And I didn't even know that the Sans costume would come with music when I bought it. So when I booted up the game and it said, "You have a new remix of Megalovania," I was like, "Whoa! What an amazing bonus!" So let's see if I can name all of the newbies. Um, this is going to be a test of my memory because a lot of my friends joke around that I have a photographic memory, which I have never claimed. It's just that I have usually a better memory than they do, so that's where they get the impression. Um, Let me know if you know more about these fighters than I do because I'd love to brush up on my history of gaming. Let's see, who am I missing so far? Byleth, Warren, Robin, Lucina, Crom, Mega Man, Pac-Man. Whenever I say TBC in one of my messages, it means to be continued, by the way. Who am I missing here? I feel like there's so much. Yeah, yeah, I really like how they have 3 different kinds of Miis because when I originally played Brawl, I was like, "Well, that was interesting that they didn't include the Miis," but when I was conceptualizing, like, "Well, what if the next Smash Brothers has DLC?" I figured they go the Wii Sports Resort approach and have the Miis with a bunch of different options, and this was a really cool compromise to that. Let's see, who am I missing? Oh, right. Uh Villager, Isabel. Whew, man, they must have worked themselves to the bone trying to please these fans. Cineroar. Greninja. There we go. Can't believe I almost forgot about Greninja. And I probably missed a few in there. So they have really gone to town with adding a whole bunch of new characters. One of my personal favorite, well, besides Banjo and Kazooie, I would have to say I was the most excited to see. I would have to go with the Inklings were another cool one. Yeah, I would have to say the Inklings are probably my second favorite new character after Banjo and Kazooie. If you don't know, they're from the Splatoon series, and they're basically half kid, half squid. So they use ink as their primary weapon, but you can only use so much of it before you have to recharge, which is just like how you do it in the game, except to compensate it for Smash Brothers, you have to hold down the shield button, and then I think you hold down B, and then your ink tank refills because you don't have unlimited ink. And each different alternate costume for the Inklings has a different colored ink. So if you're playing as 8 Inklings at once, you get basically a whole rainbow of colors. Maybe that's what the intro song meant when they said, "Colors weave into a spire of flame." Man, if you're the only one that shows up for this chat, I'm still going to be really happy that you showed up. Again, I do know your name, but for the sake of privacy, I won't say it unless you give me permission. Like I said, I'm more of a one-on you might not have gotten here at this point, but I said earlier in the chat, I'm more of a one-on-one, one-on-three type of guy as opposed to entertaining big crowds, so this really works. The other cool thing about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's roster is that there weren't actually a whole lot of clone characters. Most of the characters had completely unique movesets, which was nice because I felt like they kind of went overboard with clones in the other games. Yeah, no problem. I will do that. Um, is there a name you'd like me to call you as like a code name, or should I just call you Fu? I don't know how to pronounce that. Furim. It sounds like something from Little Inferno. Do you have an easier name to pronounce than that? Or do you have like a pronunciation guide that you could put in there so I know what to do in the future? What was I saying? So Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, they had their "Everyone is here" motto, but even when you combined all of the characters together, there were more original characters than there were clones of existing characters. And maybe they thought the word clone was too negative, so they changed the terminology to being an echo fighter. And I'm really thankful that even among the echo fighters, they were usually based on newer fighters. And the characters that were previously more of an echo than another were given enough of a distinct moveset to separate them. For instance, when Melee first came out, a lot of people considered Dr. Mario to be Mario's clone. But Dr. Mario is not considered an echo fighter of Mario because there are quite a few differences that makes him unique. For starters, he throws pills instead of fireballs, which travel on a bouncy trajectory instead of more of like a wavy one. Also, his down B is a spin attack as opposed to Mario, where he shoots water with FLUDD. Dr. Mario's up special is more of an explosive punch, whereas Mario's is like a ba type of rapid fire thing. Also, there's an ever so slight difference in how their final smash handles, even though both of them push their hands forward Harry Potter style and shoot a bunch of projectiles. Then you've got Ganondorf and Captain Falcon. In Melee, they were pretty much carbon copies of each other, except Ganondorf was slower but more powerful. Now, Ganondorf has a different side special than Captain Falcon does. Aragorth? Aragorth, I like that. All right, I will call you Aragorth then, because it sounds a lot like Aragon. Or Aragorn, like from Lord of the Rings. I never actually liked the Lord of the Rings books all that much. Bits and pieces of it was okay, but as a whole, I didn't really like Tolkien's style of writing. I felt like it was too slow and too boring to engage me. Now, you might call me a hypocrite because I love Deathly Hallows and that's my favorite book, but Deathly Hallows was one book out of 7. If all 7 books had been like Deathly Hallows, I don't think I'd have liked it as much. But Lord of the Rings feels like it was 3 books worth of Deathly Hallows, and that's just not cool at all. Basically, all they do is wander around trying to defeat bad guys, which I don't know, not the most original plot in the world. At least with Harry Potter, they're taking class lessons, they're exploring, and instead of just defeating the bad guy, they have to figure out how to defeat the bad guy. And then they have to train up in school to make sure that they have the means necessary for if they challenge him to a duel, they're not going to get clobbered. Whereas in Lord of the Rings, it's like, here, grab a sword, all of a sudden you can fight. Cool, the classic Mary Sue trope. No thanks. Even Hermione, who's like the genius of the Harry Potter series, she works very hard at school to make sure that she's, up to date with all of the spells that she should know for her age group. And she's like constantly in the library reading up, how does this spell work? What do I do here? And so the only reason she's so talented is because she's studied, she's paid attention in classes, and she's earned the right to be powerful. And I feel like there's a lot of characters nowadays that kind of just have this inborn ability to be good. Sure, you could argue, but Paul, the wand chooses the wizard. Well, that may be so, but the wizard still has to go to school to learn how to be a good wizard. Look at Gilderoy Lockhart. He could only do one spell, and because of that, he was considered barely even a wizard. Lord of the Rings doesn't really have that element of training to it. And maybe it does, and it's just been a while, but if Tolkien had a way of training the hobbits to fight, he didn't make it interesting, whatever he did. Getting back to what was I saying? Um, hmm. What was I saying? I was talking about Smash a little bit. Oh yeah, Ganondorf. Ganondorf has a different side special than Captain Falcon, where instead of doing an uppercut, Ganondorf grabs the opponent and knocks them downward. In addition to that, in Ultimate, they gave Ganondorf sword attacks for all of his smash attacks, so therefore giving him more range than Captain Falcon. Plus, when Brawl came along, they had totally different final smashes. For Captain Falcons, you have to be really close to the opponent, whereas with Ganondorf, you can approach them more from a distance because he charges forward. Another thing that I really like is that they returned Ganondorf to his Ocarina of Time design. Because I was getting kind of tired of Twilight Princess Ganondorf. If they had to keep him in, I would have said at least give him a sword. But they gave Ocarina of Time Ganondorf a sword, which is ironic because Ocarina of Time Ganondorf never actually did use a sword in the original Ocarina of Time. He did when he transformed into Beast Ganon, but never in his human form. So I find it funny that Twilight Princess Ganondorf actually did use a sword, but yet in Smash for 3DS and Wii U, the only way you'd get him to use that sword is if you had a customized special move, which feels like that's kind of unfortunate. Why don't you incorporate it into his moveset? That was one of the coolest parts of Twilight Princess. So, question. Out of the characters that I've mentioned that are newcomers in the Smash Brothers series, besides the Miis, which ones do you think you'd really like to try out again if you had an opportunity to give one of the Smash games a try? All right, now let's see if I missed any of them. I said Mega Man, Pac-Man. I was really excited to see Pac-Man in because I had actually made a Pac-Man custom stage in Brawl, and people hated it at the time. But I was like, well, I'll just wait for the day when Pac-Man comes out. And sure enough, he did. The stage became obsolete, and then I realized, shoot, I wish I could go back and like put the new Pac-Man remix into that stage now that Pac-Man music actually exists, because I had to use music from the original Donkey Kong to fit the mood. There were a lot of characters that I wanted since Brawl that got in later that I was really appreciative of. Let me Banjo and Kazooie, I wanted them in for like forever. I did want Mega Man in for a long time. Wasn't a huge fan of his games, but I thought he might make for a pretty cool character. Palutena, I can't say I was particularly hoping for her, but I'm glad that she made it in because I'm a huge fan of Kid Icarus Uprising, and that allowed for more of Pit's moveset from that game to translate well into Smash Brothers, because most of Palutena's special moves are based on moves that Pit had, that Palutena gave Pit permission to use. Whereas in Smash Brothers, she's like, well, I invented the moves, so I'm going to use them against you. So that's a pretty cool twist. Plus, they got the original voice actor to play Pit in her reveal trailer. I think I might have named all of them. Just in case I didn't, I'm going to keep saying until I finally get every single one of them down. Oh, Little Mac. He was an assist trophy in Brawl, but now he's a full-fledged character. One thing, ooh. Oh, that's nice. No, no, do not apologize for interrupting. Because I have no way of hearing what you guys are saying, I talk so that it doesn't become this just like awkward silence while I'm waiting for you guys to type, because it might take a while to formulate your sentences. So interrupt me as much as you want. Don't try to be overly polite here. I'm giving you permission to be rude, just in case that wasn't standard practice. Well, that is very nice that the hobbits get some training. Oh, wait a minute. I think I do remember that scene in the movie. but I thought that was more so of just like them bonding with Boromir as opposed to actual training. Well, glad to see that I was wrong. One thing that I did like about the Lord of the Rings books was they made it unclear as to how Gollum's intentions would be. So even though I had seen the movie and I knew ultimately where Gollum's allegiances lie, whatever the word is, I was really happy to essentially re-guess like how would Gollum turn out in the end. I also appreciated the fact that I have to think about it is really unfortunate. I also liked the twist of how Eowyn, I think her name was. I always get her and Arwen mixed up. How Eowyn was the one that could kill the Witch King because she was a woman. Granted, that played out so much better in the movie because, the acting was pretty spectacular. But I still think, like, back then, they weren't known for having particularly great plot twists in books, and that was one of the best. Merry and Pippin weren't funny in the books, though. I think that was the biggest takeaway of what I really hated about the books was I mean, they told jokes every now and then, but it wasn't a defining part of their characters like it was in the movie. Yeah, I would agree. I would very much agree because there's a line in Fire Emblem Three Houses. It comes pretty early on in like chapter 2, so it's not much of a spoiler. Where if you decide to play as the Blue Lions, one of the students says, "Is there not something inherently wrong with crossing blades as a means of bonding?" Because one of the students is known for not talking very much except with his sword. And so one of the first things he says to you, because you're a professor in that game, is he says, "Join me at the training grounds. Let me see what you're made of." And I personally don't really like going to the training grounds in that game because it's too much of a gamble. But that's what's cool about Three Houses, is if you don't like something the game has to offer, for the most part, you can just ignore it. There's not really too many instances where the game forces you to take advantage of its systems. In fact, I would say probably only about 3 or 4 times in the whole game are you actually forced to go to the monastery. The rest of the time, you could theoretically spend the entire game on the battlefield. I don't know why you'd want to. I feel like it's a breath of fresh air that you can actually explore in a Fire Emblem game, but that's just me. That's just me. Oh, man. I just started thinking about the conference again, and I am so excited. Just as an FYI, I'm probably only going to be around for another hour. So if you know anyone that you think might want to watch this that I don't have any way of reaching, you might want to say, like, guys, hurry up and get Paulism before the hour passes. Just saying. They don't have to. Not saying you're bad company. Just saying if anyone wants to be in this discussion, they should do it before 10 o'clock. Because then I'm going to be squealing with joy to my family about the announcement on the phone. Oh, man. Okay. Back to focus. I'm actually even more excited about this than I was. Well, okay, maybe not as much as Banjo being in Smash, because that was more of like a once in a lifetime kind of thing. But this is probably the second most excited I've been for an announcement in like forever. So if I like start breathing really rapidly, losing focus, it's because that text was sent during this live stream. And this is basically my life. This is what I pledged to do at my confirmation. This is essentially a fulfillment of why I am Paul. This is essentially a fulfillment of why I am Catholic. Is I want young minds to be transformed by not necessarily what I say, but by my willingness to say something. Because there have been years where I haven't really done a whole lot of evangelizing, and yet people will still come up to me and say, "Hey, Paul, I just want you to know that you made a difference." And a lot of times I'll be like, "Okay, you're welcome, but I don't know what I did." So I feel like just being there and having a presence is in itself or yes, you got it. The fulfillment of Paulism. I think I might have to put that on Facebook. That's really cool. I won't I'll keep you anonymous, don't worry. But Yeah, that's a really cool quote. Mm, if only I knew how to like comments on here, but as it stands, I do not. So your comment is liked by me. Just remember that going forward. Yeah, you can do that on Facebook, but you can't do that on YouTube. Or at least if you can, I don't have enough subscribers to do it. Speaking of subscribers, I actually have over 350 now. I should be doing a celebration video, but I don't want to because I feel like I just got off of my 300 subscriber special. And that was a lot of work to go into that. Uh, I'm sorry, did you mean to type a rectangle or was that supposed to be an emoji? You might have to retype that last sentence unless there's some hidden meaning that I don't know about. What was I saying? Oh, I forgot. I totally forgot. Oh well. I'll probably just be like, I got it randomly. No worries. Accidents happen. I do that sometimes too, where like I'll press enter when I'm typing mid sentence and then I'll have to put like, this is what I meant to say. Oh, yeah, subscriber amount. Good, good. Yeah, so I just got off doing my 300 subscriber video. I think that was like 3 or 4 months ago, and I put a lot more work than even went into my channel. Like there was a lot of stuff that I did for that video or set of videos that actually ended up being cut from the final product. And I guess that's the problem with me being my worst critic is that sometimes I think that my audience is not going to like the amount of work that I do. And so there's probably about half as many videos that I've made that I never uploaded as there are that are actually on my channel. So one time I actually made a Facebook status out of that where I said, "Hey guys, here's a collection of like 50 statuses that I never released because I didn't think people would like them or they were worded weirdly, etc." And people really liked that. So maybe I'm just too much of a pseudo perfectionist. I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist by any means because I feel like being a perfectionist essentially means that you're succumbing to pride and I would like to stay humble. But I think to be a semi-perfectionist is okay because God gave us the ability to strive forward for greatness. And if God has given us a gift, just like in the parable of the talents, we should be willing to use that gift instead of burying it. So if God gave me the ability to write, then I don't want to just sit around and not write. I want to be able to use my writing talents for good and to help people. I'd like to think I have, but if God says, Paul, I want you to do more, then I'll do more. Just sometimes, I don't know if you've experienced this yet, but sometimes if you're really, really close with God for a certain part of your life, God will sometimes have moments where he'll like deliberately make you feel like he's abandoned you as a way of increasing your faith. Like I used to hear God speak pretty much every other day. And I was constantly like telling people stuff. It's like the Lord was telling me to tell you. And I was this very charismatic, like, I am on fire for the Lord. But recently I've hardly heard a peep from him. I there have been times where because of that, I have thought that maybe God did abandon me or he was angry at me. But I think what it actually is God is trying to test me to say, okay, you really think I'm that great? When I did talk to you, let's see if you continue that train of thought when I'm not talking to you. So I think that'll be a good theme going forward into this conference. It's like just because you can't hear God talking right now doesn't mean that he'll never speak to you. And some people, it takes longer than others. There are some people that don't hear God's voice until they're well into their 50s or 60s. And that's okay because sometimes God realizes that circumstances make it hard for us to know Him exactly at the right time. In fact, some people He didn't reveal Himself to at all. And I don't know why He did that. That's just how God chose to work. But I do appreciate that he decided to reveal himself based on the course of history as opposed to an individualized basis. Like when God appeared to Moses, he didn't say, okay, okay, Moses, this is how I'm going to appear to you, but everyone else can just sit back and relax. He said, take these commandments and share them with the people. and then they can benefit from how I'm revealing myself. When God would speak to the prophets, he wouldn't say, well, okay, you just remember what I said and call it a day. No, he said, go and tell people what I am telling you about me. So, in other words, sure, the prophets heard God speak, but then the people heard God speak too, because the prophets were God's mouthpiece. So, I'd like to think that maybe God is calling me to be a prophet, but at the moment he's just testing how far does he think I'm willing to go to please him. Oh my gosh, I am so excited right now. I can't. I gotta focus. I gotta focus a lot. So, my next question is, were you able to go to Catholic? No, 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 no. I'm not going to ask that. Um, that he does. That he does. You know that I don't know if that's what you intended, but when you said the press X to doubt, it seems like you're quoting Undertale indirectly. I feel like the thing with Undertale is what I really like about it is that it came to the Switch late. So as a result, even though a lot of people talked about it back in the day, when I talk about Undertale, I tend to get a more selective audience because I came late to the scene. So a lot of people like know what happens. A lot of people are past the point where they're like, "Don't say anything about Undertale. I don't even want to know what genre it is." But now I can say like, "So, what did you think about Sans?" And people would just be like, "Yeah, this is what I think." And so I feel like not only can I have open speech, but I can play Undertale how I want without letting the fan base tamper with how I enjoy a game. Although, truth be told, if I had my way, I would have done True Pacifist from the beginning. It's just that the game didn't make it obvious at first. So I ended up doing neutral twice in a row. And then after I played Pacifist, because at first I thought I'm never going to be able to play Pacifist because it's too hard. Then I watched some YouTube videos about what the Pacifist ending was like. And then eventually I guess like God essentially wrestled with my brain saying, "You really ought to do this, Paul. Come on, nudge yourself. Let's do this." So I said, all right, I'll go pacifist." And I did. And I was like, wow, this feels like one of the greatest sensations I've ever had in gaming. It literally felt like it literally felt like I, as Paul, was the hero, not just controlling an avatar saving the world. And it led for one of the most satisfying endings I've ever seen in a game. One of the most. I still would be partial towards Professor Layton and the Unwound Future as my favorite ending. I tend to like very morbid endings. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I was in depression for so long, and when I was in depression, seeing other people sad made me happier. Yeah. If you really want to, like, be sad on purpose, or if you're, like, trying out for a play and you're, like, having trouble crying, the genocide route's the way to go. I did watch a playthrough of that, and, yeah, it's not my thing. Even if I wasn't Catholic, I feel like I wouldn't want to play I wouldn't want to play genocide because it involves a lot of RNG, which stands for random number generator, where you have to like make the enemies appear on the field by walking around and hoping that the percentage aligns, which I've always hated in regular RPGs. So to do an entire route of that that's one of my least favorite video games. And when I heard that that's how you do the genocide route, I just said that doesn't even sound fun. But I did download the Sans fight, as I'm sure you remember from about a year ago. I tried to stream the Sans fight, but I didn't figure out how to do it. I downloaded what's called the Bad Time Simulator. if you want to try it for yourself. It's free, by the way, so the only thing that should be stopping you is if you don't have the right specs on your computer. Basically, it lets you go straight to the final battle of the genocide route, but without the dialogue, well, most of it, and without having to kill anyone. And from what I understand, it fixes a few of the frustrating parts of the original game, but not too much that it makes the battle easy. I mean, you're probably going to die like 1,000 times before you get it right. And boy, does it feel good. Just going to say that right now. And in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, if you pay 75 cents extra, you can get Sans as a Mii Fighter costume. And then you can play Megalovania in the background. And then you can pretend like you're, yeah, I think you should. I would say that if you have the money, Smash Brothers is totally worth full price. Like, I know a lot of people say stuff like, oh, Nintendo Switch games, they're just $60 is too much to pay. Actually, I think $60 is a steal for a game with that much content. Just to put it into perspective, they have over 80 characters, over 100 stages, over 1,300 spirits, approximately 1,000 spirit battles. Hello, Lot. I have partial dyslexia. Forgive me for that. Welcome back. What's been up with you? Just to give you a brief summary of what we've been talking. Oh, just popping in. That's cool. How long are you going to stick around for, or did that mean just a couple of seconds? Well, either way, I really appreciate it. So, getting back to Ultimate for a minute. Again, for only $60, you also get... Be in for a bit? Okay, cool. Very nice. So, we were talking about... Actually, we never got around to this. We were going to talk about my opinions about Byleth in Smash. We were talking about why you should play Smash Brothers Ultimate if you haven't played Smash Brothers in a while. We were talking about my excitement for the conferences I'm chaperoning, because I just got official confirmation that I'm going to be chaperoning one of my favorite conferences in my state of origin. I've been over the moon about it. We've been talking about like how God works, a little bit about Undertale. But if you're a fan of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, what were your opinions on the Byleth presentation? Personally, I thought it was really great. I thought that the reveal trailer was not that great, but then again, that's also because I don't like anime. I never have, and I probably never will. Whereas the Banjo trailer was done in Rareware style 3D, and not only that, but the three characters in the window were cheering for Banjo and Kazooie, and it felt like it was a grand celebration. Whereas with Fire Emblem, it was more of like most people were saying, "What? What's going on here?" But it's mainly just because I don't like anime. You haven't been playing any of the new releases? Or just Smash Brothers? Well, if you haven't gotten Ultimate yet, let me tell you. What's cool about Ultimate is that they went for less modes, more fun. So they've got a massive adventure mode. You can play 8-player Smash on any stages. They have every character that's ever been in Smash, plus the roster is continuously updating, plus Banjo and Kazooie are in it. Ooh, okay, well, thank goodness I'm here. They also have, at present, 956 songs in the soundtrack, and they're still adding more. When the next update rolls around, they'll have 968, and they're probably going to surpass 1,000 by the time it's finished updating. Decent amount? Sorry, Argarath. I'm sorry. I have to account for newbies in the chat. And then spirits, you have like over 1,000 of them. And not only that, but the changes to Ultimate are in the tens of thousands, according to the director. So if you haven't played, or if you have played the other games to death, you'll notice that there's a lot of what I would call unnecessary content. And this I haven't said yet. Like, for instance, Yoshi. most people don't think twice about Yoshi costumes, but they actually went out of their way to make a costume for Yoshi that was based on Yoshi's Crafted World, which hadn't even been released. Oh, that's unfortunate. You know, if you want to try a Switch, the Switch Lite recently came out, and that's only $200, which is dirt cheap compared to what most consoles are nowadays. Like most of them are between 400 and 500 bucks. I would say if you're desperate to play your Switch on the TV, which honestly there's not really too much point in doing that. I don't really like playing my Switch on the TV unless I'm recording footage for a review. But I have tried out the Switch Lite for a little bit, and I think it's very comfortable. I like how the Joy-Cons don't detach. As someone who my Joy-Cons are constantly feeling like they're about to break off. But it doesn't have rumble. And I really love rumble. Ever since the days of the Nintendo 64, I've always wanted to get the most intense rumble possible. So I've always bought the most powerful rumble packs. Then the GameCube came out and had rumble built into the controller, and that was cool. And then the Wii came along, and then they had rumble, and the Wii U, like, I think the Wii U had rumble, but I don't remember off the top of my head for some odd reason. Maybe it's because I've been playing too many garbage Wii U games lately. And then the Switch came along and it had HD Rumble, which is honestly a lot not as cool as Nintendo hyped it up to be, but the few examples where they have delivered are really amazing. I especially loved one of the coolest uses of HD Rumble I've ever seen is in the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney trilogy. No, I've played Ace Attorney too many times, but playing it on the Switch was really fun because the HD Rumble is based on Phoenix's emotions. So if Phoenix feels like he was dealt a crushing blow by the prosecutor, the HD Rumble will signify that Phoenix is feeling shocked. Or when he feels pleased by the argument that he gives, the HD Rumble will have an uplifting feel to it. So essentially, the HD Rumble is representing the inside of a lawyer's mind. And that's not something that you generally expect from an HD Rumble. A few other of my favorite examples would have to be, yeah, I know. Let's see. Super Mario Party did a pretty good job. Like they had a mini game where you had to like roll a jar around and you had to like get the candies out of the jar and you'd like feel the candies in your hand as you're rotating it. Oh, there was another game that had really good HD Rumble, but I'm losing track of it off the top of my head. Kirby Star Allies supposedly has a really cool Easter egg with the HD Rumble, but I could not get it to work for the life of me. If you guys ever try that game out, here's how to do it. I just couldn't get it to work personally. You get to the final level, and by final I mean like post credits. There'll be like a retro themed level, and when you get to the end of it, the controllers will start rumbling the Kirby theme song. Didn't work for me though, so either I was doing something wrong, my Joy-Cons broke, or all of my controllers broke, because I also tried it with a Pro controller. Nothing. So, if you're getting a Switch, the games that I would highly recommend are Super Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and Fire Emblem Three Houses. Those are like the big four that if you're going to get nothing else, you should definitely give those a try. Although, in fairness, Breath of the Wild is also on the Wii U, and Wii U's are pretty cheap now. So if you want to just invest in a Wii U for Breath of the Wild, I wouldn't blame you. That's basically what I did. I mean, I never actually liked playing Breath of the Wild on the Switch. When I bought it for pre-order, I always had pre-ordered the Wii U version. And then when I tried playing the Switch version to help out a friend at my job, I was like, ugh, I hate the Joy-Cons. Granted, I'm a bit more used to them now, but still, if people gave me a choice between the gamepad and the Joy-Cons, I would totally play with the gamepad. Also, Breath of the Wild looks surprisingly good on the Wii U. Like, unless you have the display on the corner of the screen that has the buttons of the like these buttons right here, versus I actually have my gamepad with me right now. Let me show you for a sec. So this is the Wii U gamepad. right here. In the Wii U version, you get a juxtaposed version of this gamepad right here, which as you can see is one. Ooh, this is starting to break. Okay, there we go. Okay, crisis averted. Yeah, you got one piece right here, but in the Switch version, you have these 4 buttons. But if it wasn't for the display on the corner of the screen displaying whether it was these versus this, you would probably not be able to tell the difference. In fact, I was at my friend's house and I said, "You got the Switch version of Breath of the Wild? This looks amazing." They're like, "No, this is on the Wii U." And I was like, "You're kidding. This game looks drop dead gorgeous." Also, my recommendation for the most shockingly good Switch game that you wouldn't think would be good is Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. That's a game that I was expecting to be terrible, and then when I actually played it, I couldn't put it down. Maybe because I love turn-based RPGs so much, but maybe it's also because Grant Kirkhope composed the music, and he also did Banjo-Kazooie. He composed the remix of Spiral Mountain for the Banjo-Kazooie DLC, and if you've heard one Grant Kirkhope song, you've pretty much heard them all. He has a very distinctive bouncy style to him that no other composer really knows how to do that. Just listen to basically any song in Banjo-Kazooie, and you'll be like, "Yep, that's the Kirkhope style. You got it." So, I guess if I had to pick my recommendations for the Switch, besides those big 4, Celeste is a must-buy, although it is a multi-plat, so I guess you could get it on other things if you want. I personally would also say another big system seller would be Super Mario Maker 2. However, you have to be willing to pay for Nintendo Switch Online if you want to see most of what the game has to offer. Thankfully, a good counterpoint to that is that there's a story mode, and all of the levels within the story mode are made by Nintendo themselves. So therefore, you get one of the best Mario games in recent memory. Tetris 99 is also free to download. And if you don't have the Nintendo Switch Online paid service, it only costs $10 to play the game with computer players. So I think that's a steal for a Tetris game. Not only that, but all of its previous time locked content is now available for free. So if you play Tetris 99 enough, you get awards or achievements, for lack of a better word. Oh, that's cool. What'd you think of Tetris 99? And you can get a Fire Emblem Three Houses skin. Okay, not everyone's as much of a Fire Emblem fanboy as I am, but let me tell you, when I'm hearing the final battle music of the Black Eagles route playing when I'm about to clobber the computer opponents, it never, ever gets old. In fact, it so never gets old, that's terrible grammar, that I actually sometimes deliberately play terribly so that I can hear the music longer because I'm so good that usually they can't get past the "Hime na hashimi" part of the song. Yeah, yeah, tell me about it. My initial impressions of Tetris 99 was that it wasn't a game that I thought would be good, but ever since release, it's turned out to be one of, as I worded it, Nintendo's most successful failure to date. Because they originally made Tetris 99 as a here's why Nintendo Switch Online is great. I have never bought Nintendo Switch Online, but I would say that I've spent probably more time in Tetris 99 than any other game in my library besides maybe Three Houses and Ultimate. And one of the big reasons why I love Tetris 99 so much and keep playing it is because they have all this Nintendo fan service. They have the Fire Emblem theme skin. They have the Zelda one. They have one based on Super Mario Brothers. Tetris is the kind of game that seems really boring if you've never played it, but once you actually get good at it, you find that it's hard to put down. Because you have sort of this just one more try. Let me just try it one more time. And if you think Tetris wasn't a big deal in gaming, they added Tetris Spirits to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I personally, the highest I've ever gotten in a Tetris 99 true online battle, yeah. You don't hear too much about Russians making games, but they really hit the nail on the head with Tetris. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. Um, the highest I ever got was number 11 in a 99 player match when I had a free trial of Switch Online. So just barely squeezing out of the 10th place. I would say that I'm pretty good at Tetris, but hit me against online people and it's really going to be hit or miss. Sometimes I clobber them, other times I get clobbered. But thankfully, one thing I really like about Tetris 99, and I said this in my original review, but a lot of people probably haven't seen that in a while now that the game's newer, is that Ball and Chain, awesome! I've never seen you in one of my live streams. Welcome. We're talking about the awesomeness of Tetris 99, and we were also talking about Fire Emblem earlier. We were talking about a lot of different things. What's been going on with you lately? I heard you were moving. Yeah, yeah. Tetris is the kind of game that's really hard to master. I would say if you want to get into Tetris and you have trouble with it, ooh, Dr. Mario. Are you playing Dr. Mario as a stream, or is it something that you've just been addicted to in your spare time? Puyo Puyo Tetris has a story mode that very slowly takes you through the basics of Tetris, and then it gradually ramps up difficulty the more you learn about it. And as far as Tetris 99, with the DLC, you have the option of changing between 5 difficulty levels, which really helps if you're not good at Tetris, especially if you're not good at the Battle Royale mode. And if you do 150 line mode, then it starts out with the pieces falling super slowly and then gradually gets faster the more you go. Whoa. Yeah, I know how that feels because I'm actually moving. I'm actually moving in the next couple of months myself, and it's going to be crazy. In fact, that's the main reason why I haven't brought out my Fire Emblem Three Houses Collector's Edition package, because it's in with the other stuff that's moving out. The good news is that after I move, I'm hopefully going to get my own Wi-Fi server, because lately I've been complaining to my YouTubers. I believe in Paulism, but then again, I'm me, so of course I'm going to believe in me. That would be nice to get some support. I'm hopefully going to get my own Wi-Fi network, because that's the main reason I haven't been able to tune into your streams lately, is because my Wi-Fi is hit or miss now that my brother moved. But once we move, we're going to get a game room, and that's going to be great because I'll have a dedicated space where my friends and I can play games together, assuming my friends want to. We're also going to try to move into the countryside, but we're not going to move so far away that my friends feel like I've abandoned them. You know, if you have, yeah, tell me about it. I especially hate it when I'm watching other streamers do Mario Maker 2 and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and watching them feels like you're watching a slideshow. It's the main reason why I haven't paid for Nintendo Switch Online. It's like, why would I want to pay for something that's worse than what I've seen on the Wii U, and the Wii U has free online? Because I played Mario Kart 8 with my sister on the Wii U, and we had a pretty great time. We didn't have any connection errors. The problem, though, was that it didn't do a good job of matchmaking, as I think she came in 11th and I came in 12th place, which, I mean, we kind of should have expected that. It's online. And then what else did we try playing online? Not much else, honestly. I don't really like online gaming because I feel like it's much more fun to play couch multiplayer. Yeah, I'm actually really good at Mario Kart 8. I'm just not very good online. So I feel like if I were to ever meet you in person, I would very much probably clobber you. I love talking about the facts, Locke. I love talking about facts so much that I created a series of videos called info dumping, where I just spill out whatever I feel like talking about. Because my personality type is not known for liking to talk about themselves. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be the exception to that. I used to really love Mario Kart Wii, actually. I used to play that game so much that I almost spent the entire time at a demo station just playing it. However, in retrospect, one thing that I don't like about Mario Kart Wii is, um, I don't like how they didn't try to update the modern tracks enough, in my opinion. Like, sure, they made them look slightly better, but the music was still retro. Whereas playing Mario Kart 8, you get choruses like Toad's Turnpike, which is like everyone's worst nightmare when you're playing Mario Kart 64. But when you play it in Mario Kart 8, the track is much wider. You can go diagonally along the walls in anti gravity mode, and you can glide, and overall, it's just a much more enjoyable track. Not only that, but Mario Kart 8 was okay. Um, Mario Kart 8 was the first Mario Kart game to both have live performances in the music and also to have an individual music track for every course. So, in Mario Kart Wii, every circuit track would have the generic circuit theme. Whereas in Mario Kart 8, every circuit had a different theme song. And they also remixed classic Mario Kart music, which was not something the other Mario Kart games were particularly known for. I'm not going to ignore your message. I know what you mean. Let's just pop it in there. You're not being an idiot. Diddy Kong Racing. That was a huge part of my childhood. I always had a love-hate relationship with that game. Like, I remember there were times when I loved it, and then I'd sell it back to GameStop. Then I'd buy it again, I'd sell it again. And one of the coolest things about the N64 version is that was actually where Banjo made his first appearance, even before Banjo-Kazooie. So let me type that in again in case someone comes late. Actually, this fact is already in Smash Ultimate's database, so you can find it if you want. Unfortunately, they had to remove Banjo from the DS remake because Nintendo didn't have the rights to the character anymore, because Microsoft had bought them out by then. Also, Conker made his debut in Diddy Kong Racing, and now he's like an M-rated platformer himself. Yeah, I do like difficult tracks. Like, I love Rainbow Road. There's not really a Rainbow Road I don't like. Well, the one in Double Dash is pretty hard, but that's because 'cause I'm terrible at Double Dash. I've never been good at that game, and I think only once did I ever come in first place when I played it. Um, yeah, I love Banjo-Kazooie so much. Of course, Ball and Chain, you know that so much because I make it a point to, like, express my love for Banjo any way I can. But the thing about Diddy Kong Racing is that I don't think the individual characters had unique stats. I feel like it was more so of like, okay, well, Mario Kart has different builds for each character. You just choose whatever character you like looking at the back of their head. No worries. I mean, Kazooie plays a kazoo, so that's what happens. If Yellow Kazoo was here, she'd probably be thankful that you made that typo. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So I actually did play Banjo Kazooie before I played Diddy Kong Racing. And yeah, I would like to get into more rare games. It's just that the thing with British developers is that they tend to not know their limit as far as like what the ESRB rating is. Because Banjo Kazooie was rated E for everyone, yet I feel like it's way more adult than even some T rated games I've played. I'm not saying don't play Banjo Kazooie, it's still a masterpiece. But if I were to look back on it, I would definitely say, what were they thinking rating it E for everyone? There's so much adult stuff in there. Well, as long as your phone allows you to keep talking, because I don't like being too much of a blabbermouth. I always tell my chat, please interrupt me. Please interrupt me. I like hearing what other people have to say more than I like hearing what I have to say. So that's why I'm leery to play games like Conker's Bad Fur Day, because it has so much crude stuff, even from the little bit that I've seen, that I'm just like, that doesn't seem like me. Granted, you might be saying, Paul, don't be a hypocrite. You love Zero Escape. Well, that's because Zero Escape is a deeper story that uses the crudeness to prove a point. Conker's Bad Fur Day feels like the premise of the game is the crudeness. Whereas if you played Virtue's Last Reward all the way through, and then you look back at all of the pervert jokes Sigma made, it's like, oh, I get it now. But whereas Conker's Bad Fur Day is just kind of weird. Oh, wait, you're used to. Speaking of which, I could have sworn, Balin, that your husband used to be named Baja Ruins Everything, but now it seems like he's Baja Ruins Stuff. So did he change his name because he didn't want to be too pessimistic, or am I just misremembering his username? Because I think I said this on one of your streams, but I'm thinking of changing one of my usernames to Paul Ruins Everything as a tribute to that, if you guys ever quit YouTube altogether. So, M-rated games that I've played, not too many, but the ones that I have played I really like. Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Dual Destinies. It's really shocking that game ended up being M-rated because a lot of the questionable content turned out to be a misunderstanding. That's great. That's really great. Well, I love how he seems like such a confident guy, and I'm really happy for you. He seems like a good mix for your personality. The only reason I haven't followed him is because he doesn't do family friendly unless you specifically do it for your own channel. What was I saying? I also really like the Zero Escape trilogy. All three of them they're all M-rated and they're all very intense, but they have some of the best storylines in gaming. I also am not a huge fan of quantum physics and pseudoscience. And the fact that the games are full of pseudoscience and yet they're still so addicting is a testament to just how good of a storyteller Kentaro Uchikoshi is. Oh, wow. That's interesting. Well, you must have had a good influence on him then. Yeah, when I was a kid, I wasn't very confident after I was kicked out of school either. And then once I discovered my niche of like that I love God and I love games and I love jokes, then basically I just did all three of those. And then that sort of molded me into the persona that I am now. So I guess you could say most of high school, I was like insanely shy. And I'm still kind of shy to a certain degree, but I do a good job of hiding it because usually there's something else good going on that gives me an excuse to pretend not to be. Like when I'm chaperoning conferences, for example. There's a possibility that I can help these kids get closer to God. And so that excitement alone is like, I don't have time to be shy right now. This is a mission from above. I'm going to go for it with everything I've got. That's a good one. Oh, I totally agree, Locke. I do think quantum physics is real. It's just that I wouldn't say it's real in the same way Zero Escape does it. But if you do believe in God, then you kind of have to acknowledge quantum physics because in the Bible, Jesus makes a lot of references to if this had happened, this is how your outcome would be. So essentially, he can see alternate realities. We, on the other hand, can only speculate. If there's a way that I can find out what would have happened if I had stayed in school, I would love to hear it. Personally, I would not want to live in that reality because I feel like, yeah, yeah, it's Schrodinger's cat is a topic that's touched upon in the second Zero Escape game. And I would like to say that I'd never heard of Schrodinger's cat prior to playing Virtue's Last Reward. And they explained it so effortless that I was like, people don't even need to go to college. They might as well just play these games because they explain them so down to earth and as though they're no big deal. They define. You'll need to give me an example of that, Locke, because I don't watch a whole lot of I don't watch a whole lot of movies compared to the average person. Although I really love Marvel movies a lot. My sister has been getting me into them lately. And we're recently trying to rewatch Endgame, but we've only gotten through half of it because after my brother moved, he took the Disney Plus with him. and we haven't felt like paying for it for just one movie. Maybe I'll get it for her birthday, which is in November, so that's a long wait. By the way, if you guys didn't know by now, I really love my sister. Yeah, me too. I like to think about the here and now and think about, like, even if I had a miserable past, has that past led up to present events being good? And if the answer is yes, then I'm thankful for it. Now, I've been through some pretty terrifying stuff, but a lot of that has, I guess for lack of a better word, molded me into the person I am now. And even though I wouldn't say I'm perfect by any means, I'd like to say that I'm the best version of myself that I've seen yet. If anyone were to ask me, Paul, would you ever return to your childhood? I'd say, heck no. I would never, ever, ever want to be back to being anything under 18. In fact, I don't even think I'd want to go back to being 18. That was a really rough year for me. Sci-fi. Oh, yeah, like, like you're talking about the Star Trek and Star Wars movies? Yeah, I remember that. But what I like about those old movies is that they had other stuff that couldn't be explained, like they'd have the Force in Star Wars. And I guess birthed the trope of, like, when you're playing Fire Emblem and the characters push their hands forward to cast a spell. Maybe that's like a remnant of how in Star Wars you usually go like that to do a force push. Speaking of Star Wars, has anyone seen Rise of Skywalker? If you have, I've seen it all the way through, so feel free to. Well, okay, if there's anyone who hasn't seen Rise of Skywalker, let me know, because otherwise, I don't want to spoil too much. But if everyone here has seen it, then feel free to spoil it, because I loved it. I probably loved it for different reasons than everyone else. You haven't seen it yet. Okay, we'll keep it spoiler free then. So my spoiler-free opinion of Rise of Skywalker is they had great action scenes, but the plot was very confusing. That's all I'm going to say. Oh, and it had great music. But what's a Star Wars movie without great music? So if you're looking for a really lore-heavy type of experience, there's actually a movie companion that's coming out that actually I know. All right, well, thanks for dropping by, Locke. It was great having you. All right, so getting into spoilers now that he's left. All right, so Balin and Ag. I already forgot what name you wanted me to. All right, have a good one. I'll just call you Aragorn. So Aragorn and Balin, what are your thoughts on Rise of Skywalker? Aragorn, there we go, close enough. So my personal opinions, while I'm waiting for you guys to type, is I wasn't going into it looking for a solid plot. If there were plot twists, I was like, who cares? I'm in it for the lightsaber battles. I'm in it for the music. I'm in it for hopefully having another guy with long hippie hair like me. That worked out. And I was a huge fan of Palpatine in all of the Star Wars movies, even the cheesy prequels. And seeing him back, even though it didn't make sense how he was back and what he did, I still just liked having the opportunity to see him again. Even though I wish that he would have, like, took out a lightsaber, but I guess that would have. I heard one person defending the fact that he didn't have a lightsaber as well. He was mostly known for. He was mostly known for his force lightning, so that would have appealed more to the original audience. To which I said, "Yeah, but one of the best parts of the original or the prequel trilogy, yeah, I didn't like the kiss either because you guys are probably going to think I'm crazy for saying this, but I actually thought those two were siblings or at the very least cousins. So when I first saw the kiss, I was like, I didn't make that. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay. So just in case my Wi-Fi stuttered because it told me my connection was unstable, I just wanted to reiterate that my sister informed me that they were never brother and sister, and that I guess was like what I personally got out of it. But a YouTube cartoon video, I might have to watch that. I will think about it. Wait, Balin, you thought they were siblings too? Oh, I guess I'm not going crazy then. Because the way they portrayed them in Last Jedi, I mean, I guess you could say she accepted the fact that she was. Yeah, now that I think about it in retrospect, that doesn't make sense at all. Maybe it was more so of the legacy of the Skywalker line that she wanted to imitate, as opposed to her actual physical lineage. Like, if you've ever played Professor Layton in the Azran Legacy, I won't spoil too much, but I will say that Layton is not his real name. And when someone tries to rub it in his face, saying this is what your actual name is, he says, "My name is Herschel Layton. That will always be my name." He's going by what the Layton name means to him. So, in my opinion, when Rey called herself a Skywalker, it was because of the ideology of what the Skywalker stood for, as opposed to what the Palpatines stood for. Yeah, I would have to agree. The kiss did seem a little bit out of place, especially because I feel like I feel like they genuinely did want the two of them to be siblings. At least the way they were portrayed in Last Jedi. And then when J.J. Abrams was asked to come in and direct, he wanted to retcon that and make them a romantic interest. So I feel like there was a bit of confusion in the screenwriters' part, and that's why they threw in the kiss to say, Rian Johnson, you're terrible. Let's just kick you out of here. Oh, by the way, guys, heads up. I'm probably going to have to head out in about 10 minutes. So if you have any pressing questions like, Paul, make this, or like, Paul, what's going on with your channel, get it out of the way right now, because once that door opens, I'm going to have to skedaddle. Probably, I might even have to cut you guys off mid-sentence. So take it away with the questions. Balin, for your information, I don't know how much you've actually watched my channel, but I'm currently working on 3 video games to review. Tokyo Mirage Sessions. I would have to agree with you there. I wasn't. Um, well, to be honest, I actually didn't really think too hard about that. I was just like, okay, more action, cool. More music, more Palpatine laughing. I love it. I'm working on Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE Encore. Try saying that 5 times fast. Because I loved the original Tokyo Mirage Sessions, and I'm really enjoying playing it again. I also just started Luigi's Mansion 3, finally. And I'm waiting for Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair in the mail. I also just bought 2 brand new Wii U games, but you didn't think that was a thing. Yeah, this baby is still going. One of them is called Mac and Regina, and it's a spoof on Banjo-Kazooie, but a much more. Oh, cool. Well, I don't mind lurking. That's fine. Yeah, Mac and Regina is a 3D platformer that is basically a budget Banjo-Kazooie. It doesn't have like any animation whatsoever. It feels like one of the earliest 3D platformers. It has terrific music and pretty good humor, but I don't know if I'm going to play it all the way through. It just seems so unpolished. And then I'm about to play another Wii U game that I'm currently at a loss as to what it is. I wanted to download it, but my internet randomly went out on me. Yeah, I'm not selling my Wii U because if they're still going to make games for it and no one else reviews them, then I might as well do it. What I've really liked about the Wii U is that it's very wide. Like, for people that have big hands, they'll really appreciate how on the back they have hand rests. Which, when you're just looking at it from the back, it doesn't seem obvious, but when you actually feel like it, after you've played the Switch and you go back to it, in fact, I have my Switch right here, and the Switch doesn't have hand rests at all. Your palms just kind of are stabbed by the sides of the Joy-Cons. Whereas on the Wii U, the gamepad comfortably fits along the side. Not only that, but the button layout is much more. It's all the time, but sometimes my siblings get mad at me and I'm just like, you guys never play it, so what are you talking about? Also, the Wii U is where Breath of the Wild originated, but most people believe that it's a Switch game because it came out on the same time as the Switch came out. So whenever people say like Breath of the Wild is the best, financial disaster. Yeah, I might have to call it quits pretty soon. Even my game is having trouble downloading. That's how bad my Wi-Fi is getting. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, my brothers don't do that anymore. Both of them are, well, my one brother is married. My other brother is engaged. And both of them have moved out now. And they've both taken all of their gaming stuff and run for the hills with it. My sister and I still live together, but she's insisted. Sorry, guys, I gotta go. But thank you very much for joining my stream, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Hey, Dad.